Hello and welcome back to the TVBinges.com Pilot Roundtable, a Southgate Media Group podcast. I'm Kyle Tremblay, the editor of TVBinges.com, and I'm joined as always by a fellow TV Binges writer. She's planning to sing the credits at the end of this podcast. It's Olivia Richards! Hello!
Hey, well, you know I do love musicals.
Yes, exactly. So we will me and the audience will all be looking forward to that at the end of the podcast. Because today we are talking about Fox's new sketch comedy show, Party Over Here. Olivia, what did you think?
I have mixed feelings about this one, and we're gonna go into it, but all of the ingredients were there for it to be like a really, really solid show, and I think it just needs to figure out what portions to use to make it actually really stick and land.
Yeah, so this is a sketch comedy show, as mentioned, but it's drawing a lot of comparisons to Saturday Night Live, but it's on a much smaller scale in that the entire cast is three women, Jessica McKenna, Nicole Byer, and Allison Rich. And it's more like, I would say, a Key and Peele style show where they are sort of in front of a live audience for some of the time, but then the sketches are pre-recorded bits. So there's like some audience interaction bits, and then there's the actual sketches, which have been pre-recorded. It's not like SNL where they're performing the sketches live. You talked about the ingredients. What did you like about this? We'll start with.
I mean, first and foremost, having a female-driven comedy show is a really strong thing in my book, to have, three strong kind of up-and-coming female comics, who were coming from different areas of comedy. You have two of them who were coming from, I think, the Upright Citizens Brigade, so you have that improv style, and then I forget which one, but she was one of the writers for Saturday Night Live, so you kind of have different aspects of the comedy world kind of being brought together, so I think they had really good chemistry. I think they had two really strong sketches. They had the voting sketch and then the one where they were making fun of women's voices and the vocal fry, and they basically are doing another thing about policing, women. So they had some really solid content. So for me, that was kind of what was really, really kind of holding it together and working.
Yeah, I think you're a little bit higher on their chemistry than I am, because what to me, what doesn't work about this, and the reason this wasn't very good, is that the three of them to me seem like three people who just met. Like I got no sense that they have any kind of the sort of Key and Peele style interplay between them, and that to me is kind of central to what this is. If you're going to have that small of a group, or like to sort of put this to use another show as an example, like Broad City, which is to me like one of the funniest shows on TV right now. And those two have incredible chemistry. I don't have any sense at all from this first episode, and obviously first episode, hard to judge a show by its first episode, but that's what we do here. I just got no sense at all that these three have ever met or performed together. And in the sketches themselves, I would say that that's the case also. Like, not just in these sort of bits in front of the studio audience. In the sketches, I felt like there was very little, like, interplay that indicated any kind of affection or warmth or like next level understanding in like improv terms of like what someone's going to do. To me, this was just three people doing a sketch show. Like it kind of just sort of three people coming from their own little comedy backgrounds. I didn't have any sense of their connections, I guess.
Yeah, I kind of got a vibe from that. Definitely we had like a few moments, in the staged kind of live version. And I think that was more how the show was kind of set up, because they set it up as if, we've ever seen the show before and as if we were like seasons in. I think if it had been introduced as a brand new show and not like we were already like intimate best friends with, everything that was happening, I think that could have been more of an asset to the show.
Yeah, I mean, that obviously that was the first joke, and I didn't think that was bad, but like referencing that thing you're talking about, like Nicole Byer is African American, and they're sort of taking turns talking in the intro, and she says, if you're following plot, you're gonna be baffled, but she says it in like a very sort of I don't want to say she says it in a... Well, I will say it. She says it in a sort of black way, like where she's playing up the blackness of how she's talking. Like, she really, like, leans into it. And there's, like, a big studio audience laugh. And it's like, if that's your joke, That's not like saying something in that inflection isn't a joke unless the thing you're saying is like funny. But she's just talking about how like this is a sketch show, so if you're there for the plot, there's not going to be any plot. And it's like, yeah, we're okay with the premise of the show. Like you don't need to be defensive about that. Like I don't think anyone's watching this show expecting plot. But I don't know. Like there's a to me, like the writing was probably the issue here. Like the three seem like they're funny enough performers, but I didn't see. And I guess what I'm struggling with is what you said right off the bat, which is I like what this show represents. I like the idea of three women getting together and doing a Key and Peele style show. I think that is a way to sort of broaden the viewing audience's horizons and appeal to audiences who appreciate different voices. But it's also just like there's like this show in its entirety could have aired 25 years ago and there would have been nothing you would have had to change. There is nothing topical. There is nothing like I don't think anything in this show, unless I'm really forgetting something, had any teeth at all. Like there was no commentary. Like it's just sort of like goofy sketches. And I guess that's fine. Like I don't that's certainly not a requirement of comedy to be topical or to have an opinion. But again, like that's why Key and Peele was this transcendent show, is that it had a real point of view. And even the show like Broad City that isn't dealing with the same weighty issues also has a very distinct point of view. I got no sense of a point of view or of this show being grounded in any kind of time or place. It's just sort of these sort of SNL style one joke premises, you know, where like the suffragette sketch, which I agree with you was probably one of the stronger ones. It's like, okay, the premise is that one of these suffragettes isn't super psyched about having the right to vote. And there's no B. That's it. That's the joke. And then it's 5 minutes of that joke, and they never turn a corner. There's no secondary punchline. And like the Beauty and the Beast sketch, the premise is that she thought she was sleeping with the Beast, but she actually slept with a farm animal, and that's 5 minutes, and then and then there's no B, there's no turn, there's no punchline, like and so it's like these are all just sort of like middling SNL sketches, and I don't think they really take any advantage at all of the sort of perspective of the cast members or have any kind of like unique voice to them. They're just sort of like the same kind of jokes that you'd see on like SNL.
No, I completely agree. And I think, if we're going in the same way as it being Key and Peele, I think, because this is a female-led show, they could have even, done what, Inside Amy Schumer did. Mm-hmm. Because part of hers is her performing her own stand-up. Obviously, it would be a little bit different because, it's three improv comedians on the stage. So they could have tweaked it to fit that format. But then you have the live sketch series, or you have the, pre-recorded sketches. And what's working for Amy there is that there is a lot of bite behind what she's doing, and I completely agree with you saying that the jokes are extremely broad and they're not really grounded in any kind of modern topical context. Obviously comedy doesn't have to be like weighty, but at the same time, like if you're trying to touch on social issues or you're trying to make a point, you actually have to make the point.
Right, and I don't think they were trying to make a point, but also. And I like the Amy Schumer bringing up her because her comedy is grounded in a very personal context. And that's also what this was missing. Like, hey, listen, this is a show produced by The Lonely Island. It doesn't need to be like hard hitting. Like this doesn't need to be weighty. It's fine if it's not. I'm not holding just because it's unfair in a sort of roundabout way to expect sort of the first sketch comedy show that's run by three women to tackle issues. If they don't want to tackle those issues, they shouldn't tackle them. I'm not saying that, but this is also not grounded in any kind of personal context, like which is what I think Broad City does, which is that it's reflecting the worldviews so strongly of its leads. There is none of that in this pilot. I have no sense of who these women are. And so you got to go one way or the other. You've either got to engage with society as it stands in 2016, or you've got to make something that is very personal and has a very unique sort of opinion. I felt a lot of these jokes were sort of influenced by the Lonely Island sensibility, but it was just improv comics doing Lonely Island jokes. Like the I mean, there was a really regrettable bit in the middle of this where they were talking with the Lonely Island guys up top, and it just felt so much like the Lonely Island wrote that bit, and then these three comedians performed it, and that to me is like the worst place to land, where it doesn't feel genuine and it doesn't feel personal, and it just kind of feels sort of manufactured and flat.
I definitely get a sense of that too. And it's sad because it's like, I was, watching it, and there were definitely moments where I was like, if they had just, pushed a little bit more, or, if there had just been, like, like we've been saying, like a little bit more sense of style and exactly what they were trying to do, it would have been definitely one of my favorite shows, of the season.
Yeah, it's like, I would also like to get a sense of that they're actually funny. Like, I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are. But these sketches and these sketches were not a good indication of that to me. And the audience interaction was not a good indication of that to me. And I forget which one it was, but one of them was like talking to her mom's friend in the audience. I mean, obviously it was a bit, but it's like there wasn't even anything resembling a laugh in that 3 to 4 minute exchange. And it's like, well, I mean, yeah, it's like with the other shows, it's like they get to do stand-up, and I understand these are improv comics, not stand-up comics, but I'd really love for them to just like include a bit where they're doing just like their sort of the stuff that they're good at, like the improv comedy, as opposed to maybe the pre-recorded sketches, just to have some faith that they're funny. Because I don't know who these three are, and I would just, I'd feel a lot better about the sort of future of this show if I could definitively say that these people are funny. And I can't say that based on the content of this pilot. Like there just wasn't a lot to go by. It's not like I dislike them. It's just I kind of need, like, what I would have really liked to have seen is like one funny sketch to me. Like I guess like really funny, like something that could go viral, or something that like is like genuinely good or funny. I mean, there were a couple that were okay. The two that you mentioned, I think, were okay. But it's like, if they had just something here that gives me like a glimpse of what the show could be, because obviously, like, a show like this is going to take a while to find its footing, and you kind of have to build that into the assessment. But I would have liked to have seen just a little, like some kind of like sign of like what's to come. Something that they could build towards, and maybe be a guiding. A guiding post, but I based on this, I didn't really see that, and so that's my worry.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I'm hoping it's just, again, one of those things where, this is the first episode, and, it's going to be able to build itself up from this point, because it's, again, like, you do have these three very funny women, and, like, from my perspective, I, have been watching Girl Code for however long it's been on, so seeing Nicole Byer on that, like, it was kind of disappointing, not like disappointing, but, she has so much personality on that show, and to see it from, go from that to, like, here where, like you would say, you don't really get a sense of, who these women are. Obviously, they have three separate, really prolific careers outside of the show. So, I want to really be able to see them take that energy and kind of channel it into this. So I'm really, hoping that it's one of those things where it just needs a little bit, of a push, through a few more episodes to kind of get to that point.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I mean, I didn't do any research, and I've never seen these performers, but it's yeah, I think that if you have experience in the past with them, then it might be good. And I like The Lonely Island, and also Paul Scheer, who I really like and hosts one of my favorite podcasts, is also an executive producer on the show. So I mean, there's good people behind the scenes. I'll take it on faith that these performers are actually funny and that they've been good in other things. And so it's like, if that's the case and the show is given long enough, it'll probably figure it out. Like, if you've got good people on screen and good people off screen, you'll figure it out eventually. But I think, like, for now it's a bit of a struggle. Like, this was a bit of a struggle for me. So
yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. It was not the strongest.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
I think you're having the same kind of cognitive dissonance that a lot of the people who wrote about this show are having, because I think a lot of TV critics, it's fair to say, are progressive minded, and really like the idea of this, and really like that it's on Fox, and really like that there's, you know, 3 women who are doing this show, and the production values are high, and all of that. And so it's hard to sort of separate out the idea of this show and being really really supportive of that from the reality that it wasn't very good. But still, like, maintaining, like, hey, like, this, you know, we don't need to bury it. Like, it can be, you know, that doesn't mean it'll never be good. A sketch comedy is really hard, and putting together this kind of show is really hard. And, you know, 5-6 episodes from now, this show could look totally different and be really, really good. And that wouldn't surprise me at all. But just for now, it's just, you know, it's going to have to figure some stuff out. So.
Exactly. I think you just, you know, hit the nail on the head with that one.
So I can't find ratings for this. I looked and I just couldn't find ratings. It's a Saturday night show. It probably had very, very few viewers, I think it's safe to say.
Probably.
You know, but I mean, people don't watch TV on Saturday night except SNL, and that's going to be an uphill battle as well to get viewers, which is again why I think that if they had, boy, you gotta, it's just the part of me that's pessimistic about this show is that they had to have a lot of time to do this episode, right? Like, this is the first episode, so they had way more time to prepare this episode than the other ones. And nothing in this episode is topical, so they were on no kind of time limit in terms of content. You would have hoped that one of the sketches would have hit, right? Like, one of the sketches would have been something that people on the internet who maybe didn't watch the show live would stumble across and share. Like, going viral. Like, you just, I mean, the Lonely Island, like, no one has been better at that than Lonely Island. And you just, given all the time to produce this episode, you would have wanted one of the sketches to hit that, and it just didn't, which is really, like, a bit of a concern. And that's the only way the show is going to gain an audience, is to have, like, Twitter start talking about it. So here's hoping that they figure. Yeah. So your final verdict, Olivia: thumbs up or thumbs down on Party Over Here?
As much as it was sort of a rocky start for the show, I think that, you know, it has potential to do something really cool, and I'm still kind of holding on to hope for that. So for me, it's going to be really just one thumb up.
There you go. Yeah, and I think that is a perfectly reasonable take. That it's an overall good thing that this show is on. That, you know, it's good, and it again, with the talent around and on this show, this could get good. I agree with your assessment, and I give it a thumbs down because it wasn't very good. And it's not an enthusiastic thumbs down. It's one thumbs down on my end. So I just think I just can't, in good conscience, give a sketch comedy show that didn't make me laugh a thumbs up. So,
yeah, where you're coming from.
Right. So you've been listening to the TVBinges.com Pilot Roundtable, a Southgate Media Group production. You can listen to all of our episodes on iTunes, where you can rate and review us. We'd appreciate that. Or find us at SouthgateMediaGroup.com. Follow Olivia on Twitter at RichardsOlivia, and me on Twitter at KyleLovesTV. Until next time.